Because you never know when it's all going to end.
Very ominous tone at the end here. Because you never know. It sounds like you're going to come kick my ass now. Welcome to Video Game Podtimism. It is the Optimists video game variety show where two best friends talk about the wonderful world of gaming. My name is Chase.
My name is David. I like when you add emphasis on a different portion, because then it just makes it sound like maybe there was a third best friend that we decided, no, you're not allowed on this podcast.
Yeah, no, you've been kicked off. Or one best friend. That's an interesting concept. Is that just a guy?
Maybe.
If you're, this is about to be the Outer Wilds. If there is not a person to witness your best friendness, does it exist?
Whoa.
Or if unobserved, does best friend not count anymore?
Not exist anymore?
Yeah.
Wow.
So
were we best friends before the podcast? Does the existence of the podcast right now ensure that we are best friends at all times?
Or were we best friends before we met? Was all of prehistory still, are we still best friends there? Depending on observation. I don't know.
Whoa.
I don't know.
Whoa.
Okay, so if this is your first episode, hey, we are about to change up the formula just for this episode, pretty dramatically. Normally we talk about the games we're playing and then an okay game as well that we have taken from listeners, but we got suggested by listener Pokechon, thank you Pokechon for your suggestion, to play the Outer Wilds and the DLC for it. I had played the base game, but not the DLC. You had played the base game, but not the DLC as well, correct?
I had started the DLC a little bit, but I came back from it because I had just beaten the base game when I started playing it, and it was just a little too different than the base game for me to really vibe with it. I just wanted more Outer Wilds.
For sure.
But we'll get into it a little bit, but it's just a little bit different than the base game in good ways, I think.
Yeah, totally. I do agree that it kind of benefits from a little bit of time away from the base game itself, though. Yeah. Because it is a bit of a shift. But yeah, point being, that's all we're talking about today. It's just the Outer Wilds. That's all we're doing. Because it's a big, juicy game. And you and I have never strictly talked about the game, the vanilla version of it. We've kind of danced around it, but a lot of it is kind of spoilery. So we just felt hey, this would be a good opportunity to actually dig into what's going on in there. So we're going to do that. Just programming wise, we're going to talk about non-spoilery stuff at the beginning. So in a moment here, about both the regular game and the DLC. You don't really have to know what happened in the base game to play the DLC. It informs the rest of it. But the point of that is that you're not going to spoil yourself on what happens in the game by us talking about the DLC. So you'll be good there. We'll then say okay, let's talk about the rest of it. At which point we'll go through, I'm assuming kind of the story of the regular one, and then also the story of the DLC, kind of what goes on in there. And then we got a couple listener questions as well. So we'll answer that at the end.
Cool.
Sound good?
Sounds good to me.
Let's talk about this ding dang video game.
Yeah.
Okay, so just let me hit you with just a couple of hot stats about this one, David.
Wow, surprise hot stats in the beginning of the episode.
I know, doesn't it feel a little odd?
It feels wrong. It feels like I'm being naughty right now. I'm having dessert before dinner.
We're dressing ourselves and putting our shoes on first.
Whoa, that's wrong for a different reason.
It's a pretty threatening outfit, I will say. Just shoes.
And nothing else.
Yeah, that very frightening visage to see someone in shoes only.
I am ready to do something active without clothes. I am ready to go.
Or I'm being pursued by something and all I had time for was footwear. There is an animal in pursuit
also
of
spooky.
me. Yeah.
That is the crucial piece of clothing if you're being chased.
Yeah, you got to get the footwear right. I agree. If you're being pursued by Lubu or a puma or something.
Lubu.
Yeah.
There's Lubus in the wild now. Man.
They reintroduced Lubu to Yellowstone Park and it's gotten out of control. They've been ravaging the local birds and animals.
Yeah, I saw a video the other day of someone in Yellowstone feeding a lubu, and it didn't go well.
No, you're not supposed to do that. No, you can't get that close.
There are explicit signs to not feed the lubus, but people do it anyways. You know how they are.
You're not supposed to pursue feeding lubu.
Yes.
Okay, so the Outer Wilds base game came out May 28th of 2019. That feels both right and wrong at the same time.
It seems so old now.
Yeah, it's weird because that is 6 years old at this point. Almost, God, to the day. Holy shit, it is May 28th right now, David.
I was about to say, that date sounds familiar.
It's because it's now.
We planned this. Wow, we observed it.
Holy moly, what the fuck?
It's supposed to happen.
There's a lot of cosmic sort of...
cosmic happenstance?
Yeah. Let's go with that. Cosmic mistakes that have all come together here. This was made by Mobius Digital, and specifically, this began as a project from the developer Alex Beecham, who was pursuing his master's thesis at USC Interactive Media and Games Division, and had built essentially I'm reading between the lines, kind of a prototype of this game. And then Mobius Digital had brought on, who I think it was founded by one of his colleagues in that program, and was like, hey, come make the full game here. And sure enough, he did. I didn't write this down, but I think that was in 2013 or something when he was making that prototype. So
wow.
The development lifespan has taken quite some time. Obviously, he wasn't developing it the entire time there, but you have to assume a pretty good chunk of it they were working on this. That's largely the only game that Mobius Digital made, though. So it was that they kind of for anybody who hasn't heard of this game, it was kind of a hit. A lot of outlets said this is the game of 2019, and so I think they kind of made the DLC and have since been working on something else. But I presume with that big of a success that you kind of want to do something cool for your next game.
You got a plan. Yeah.
Yeah, so I haven't heard too much from them yet, but we will see. I'm excited for whatever they got because this was a pretty wildly good video game.
Yes, very good game.
Yeah. So why don't we talk about what this game actually is? There's a lot to it, but do you want to go through mechanically what's in there?
Sure. Yeah, let's hit it.
Cool. Do you want to take that?
Oh, me in particular.
David
will take this one. Yeah. So the Outer Wilds is essentially a space exploration and adventure and puzzle game, kind of all rolled into one. You start off as on a small planet that has one small fledgling space exploration program, and you're being sent out into space just to discover whatever is going on. Just explore new planets. I think you're also trying to find some of the other astronauts out there. Some of them have gotten lost or something. You're trying to see where they are, and you're just let loose. They don't say go here in particular at first. But the obvious choice is to go to the moon. And so from there, you just start discovering ancient civilizations. You start discovering hidden areas within worlds and warp spots that take you to other worlds and scary parts of distant planets that are filled with anglerfish that are terrifying.
There's so many frightening parts of this video game.
There is a lot of fear in this game, primal fear of the unknown and the vastness of space.
Yeah.
But for most of the game, you are flying around space in your little spaceship, which really controls quite nicely. It feels really good to
like a spaceship. Yeah.
It really feels like a spaceship. You can control it in all 360 degrees of movement. You can roll, you can go back and forth. Great feeling to the thrusters, and it just lets your natural human drive to explore take over, because you go out from your home planet and you can see pretty much the whole solar system around you, and you just decide which planet you want to go and explore for a bit, and then you're exploring along to your heart's content, just enjoying the vastness of space. And then you notice, hey, the music's kind of stopped, and you hear some rumbling behind you, and then you look behind you and the sun looks a little weird. It looks a little lumpy, and then it starts to change color and expand quickly, and then all of a sudden it's a supernova and you get killed in the blast, and the whole entire solar system gets destroyed. And once that happens, there's a weird little flashback thing that happens, and you start from the beginning of the game again.
Yeah.
So it's a time loop game. It's a surprise. It's a roguelike, right? And you have to then unravel the mystery of, why is the sun exploding? How can I stop this? And what can I do to change this fate that has been written into the cards for me? And you have 20 something minutes, I think, per
22. Yeah.
22 minutes per cycle. So then you're really having to pick and choose what planet you go to, right? Do I want to go explore over here? Do I want to pick over here? Go explore this spot that I haven't been to and see if there's anything that can help progress this mystery and get me to a place where I can stop it, right?
Right.
So that's when the stakes finally get explicitly told to the player. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very like cool setup for a game, despite the fact like I feel like time loop games have, I wouldn't call them routine, but it's a trope that's explored pretty often. I'm thinking kind of like Hades isn't technically a time loop, but you're going back and sort of revisiting shit. But like Deathloop comes to mind, and it's just like something that you see in, I think especially roguelikes, just because the narrative lends itself so well to like doing things over and over again.
Yeah.
But even still, it's really effective. And I think that part of that is that the game is very like earnest and emotional throughout the entire thing.
Yes.
And so like when the sun explodes and it plays the like sun exploding music, which there is music, and it scared the shit out of me every time I heard it. Because I was like, oh no, I'm out of time. No.
Yes. The sun is about to explode. It's this kind of soft vignette. And then all of a sudden you're like, you learn that is the scary sound throughout the game.
Yeah. That it's sort of unsettling in a way that even like Deathloop didn't really capture for me, because again, I think it's just like there's such an emotional core to the game that when the sun explodes, I'm like, fuck, like all my people are going away, despite the fact like it starts over immediately, you know, but just like that level of destruction to see it over and over again, it's like kind of challenging in a way. What I mean by emotional core is that like, I think like the music is amazing and like always pretty much perfectly matches the moment of what's going on.
The music is exceptional.
It's really good. It makes me feel things, like I just feel emotional listening to it. There is a connection sort of towards the end of the game that we'll get to, but yeah, like just the main sort of motif of the game is really, really great.
Yeah.
The Timber Hearth music especially is really, really good. Timber Hearth being the planet that you like start on, which I did notice there was this, there's a no-clip documentary about the making of this game, and artist on this game, Wesley Martin, had based Timber Hearth specifically off Santa Cruz. Like the
no way.
Yeah, the like redwoods and shit like that.
Oh, are they from Santa Cruz?
I don't know if Wesley's from there, but obviously is like, you know, familiar with the area.
That's hilarious.
Giants Deep is also loosely based on the like Santa Cruz beach cliffs as well.
Okay, sure.
Which I really like. For anybody who's not from California, it's a very coastal town and one that I went to school in. So like,
Chase is a slug. He's a banana slug.
Yes, absolutely. But yeah, just like all of that is very like there's an emotionality to the music, and I think there's also an emotionality to the characters in it. You will encounter initially just a bunch of your race, like the kind of four-eyed, like I think they're described as like tadpoles.
Four eyes.
Like by another group of people at some point, they were described as like kind of like water-dwelling creatures.
Yeah, the Hearthians. They're kind of like an amphibious feel to them.
Right, exactly. All of them are pretty like funny, I will say. Like the encounters with them are all humorous, but like you kind of get the sense that they're like they just feel real in a way. Like you can tell that they have like hopes and desires and fears and thoughts and stuff like that.
And just a genuinely like a kind group of people too.
Yeah.
Not warlike. They're just like, they love science and they love exploring, and that's why they do the space program.
It is funny, and there's like a low tech approach to everything that they have too. Like you will encounter the ruins of like other civilizations pretty early on in the game, and they seem like they had a much different handle on technology than the Hearthians do. Like the people from Timber Hearth, they're like the spaceship you're using is like, it looks like it's made out of wood, and like the space suit that you get into is like real low tech, like just like cloth and shit.
It looks like things are held together by string and duct tape a lot of the time.
For sure. And a lot of the time you talk to your other colleagues and stuff like that, and they'll tell you like something about what they think is going on a planet, and they're oftentimes wrong. Like they're not right about a lot of the shit.
Yeah.
Chert specifically.
Great name.
Very good name.
Real Podtimism name.
It's true. I think he's on one of the Hourglass twins.
Yeah, that sounds right. Short guy, right?
Yeah, he's the dude with like kind of the domed space helmet, and he's playing the drums or the drum. He specifically says like stuff that is simply not true about the Hourglass twins, which is just very funny to me. It's funny that they're not quite as good at science as like the ruins of the civilization that you find, like
the Nomai.
Yeah, the Nomai. You have a couple of tools, and one of them is just like a translator. And every now and then, like again, pretty early on, you'll start to see these like kind of cylindrical or like spiral lettering on certain walls, which you can use your translator to like see what those were. And it's an indication that the Nomai were there and they had written something on the wall. And their approach to science is like totally different than the Hearthians is. Yeah. They're much more methodical, much more considerate, and like much more attentive to like potentially what the truth of a situation would be. Whereas it seems like the Hearthians are like kind of just there to play music and chill in a way.
The Hearthians are doing science based on vibes. They're vibe scientists.
Yeah, it's like they're trying to play guitar hard enough to make a spaceship sometimes.
Absolutely. Whereas the Nomai are like legitimate scientists. Right, we're very serious about everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's sort of the reason all of this culminates into me feeling a lot whenever the sun explodes. Like I was saying, there's a lot of moments in this game that scared the shit out of me. And I think as you were alluding to, a lot of it has to do with like real low level lizard brain shit of like
they know how to tap into primal fear.
Yeah. I think a lot of that has to do with scale. Some of the scarier times was when like, you fly off of Timber Hearth, which is where you start every time. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to fly to one of these planets, and you can do like an autopilot thing where if you've marked it on your map, it will you can press up and it will fly you directly there in like a straight path. But it does not account for the position of the sun. And so if you're not careful, it will just fly you into the sun.
Straight into the sun. Yeah.
Sometimes what I'll do is like mark it on my map, fire up the ship, let it like get up into orbit, and then hit autopilot to one of the planets. And then there's like a thing in the back of your ship that's essentially tracking what you know about the
little computer that lets you know like all your leads and whatnot.
Right. Yeah. It's honestly a really cool approach to this kind of game because like this is for all intents and purposes like a Metroidvania where
if you know it's a roguelike Metroidvania.
Yeah, because like if you know what to do, you can beat the game immediately. Like you don't have to like go through a bunch of stuff. It's just like the information lives inside your brain, and that can be kind of overwhelming, but the ship really helps see like, okay, what are the things that I know right now and what can I like go check out? Mercifully, there's also an indicator of like there's more here if you haven't gotten everything.
Yeah.
Which me personally, I'm like, thank you, Lord. Like I don't want to have to go back and be like, okay, which place did I miss something at? It'll just tell you like there's more here, so go back to it. Anyway, I'll like I pop back into the back of the ship. I'm looking at the thing as it's on autopilot, and then hear the sound of the sun being close, and like just frantically try to get back up to the front of the ship.
Oh no!
Yeah, to not fly into the sun. Which like again, there's no punishment other than like you just start the loop over. But like something in my brain is just like my gut drops whenever that happens. Of like, oh my god, no, not the sun.
Yeah, the most powerful thing I can think of. The sun is right outside right now.
Yeah, and I think like so much of it has to, like I was saying, just the scale of it, of how big it is frightening, and like how powerful it is. Just so scary. There's multiple moments where that happens.
For me, the one that was scariest was there's a lot of warping that happens in this game. Like you will go through an area, you'll stand on something, and it will take you somewhere completely different, like on the other side of the galaxy, or not the galaxy, but the solar system.
Solar system, yeah.
And your ship sometimes comes with you, and sometimes it doesn't, and you're just left out there. And there's one that I think it's in the middle of Brittle Hollow, which will just warp you into the middle of just nowhere. And no land around you. There's no planet. It's just like a broken space station. It's just around you, and you're just in the dark. You have no idea what just happened. You're just floating around in space. Yeah. And it takes you a second to realize, oh wait, I'm not on the ground anymore. I'm floating in space, and I have like maybe I'm low on fuel. Maybe I'm low on air. Now I'm in survival mode and I can't get back anywhere. So that part was terrifying. And then they also do a lot of great emergent moments that go into that, like what happened with you with the sun, right? There were a couple times where I was flying through space trying to get somewhere because I like autopilot, but I also like to just free stick it every once in a while and just see what kind of mayhem I get into.
Just like Mama
used to make them. I got hit by that comet many times just out of nowhere, and it's just like the interloper just come and just beam me out of nowhere. I would just like all of a sudden run into another planet, and I'm like, how did this happen? And it's just fun but scary at the same time because they do fun. It's the game's in first person, by the way. Yeah. So when you get a lot of damage, things will crack, and there'll be cool little visual effects on your HUD
visor,
on your visor, and then also when you're piloting the ship, the things will crack and it'll send out all these alarms and whatnot. So it's a very immersive experience when those things happen, which adds to the fun and also the scariness. It's kind of like a scary kind of fun. It's an interesting balance that they strike there by being able to achieve that.
Yeah, it all culminates to feeling like just very vulnerable in this world,
physically and emotionally.
Yes, yeah. Again, despite the fact, there's no punishment. You don't suffer that many consequences for you can just click go back to the beginning. If you quit the game and start it back, it'll kick you out to the front of the loop.
Yep.
No problem, no questions asked, no real no loss. But God, yeah, they still just make you feel like you're like a squishy animal inside of a tin can.
Yeah, and there's a definite drive to survive in these situations too. Never was I like, oh, I'll just die, whatever. I'm like, no, I must live. I
gotta live.
I got 5 more minutes on this run. I need to find some more information.
Yeah, it might be worth going through what the planets are for people who haven't heard of this game before.
Yeah,
just to kind of level set a little bit. Like we were saying, the one you start on is Timberhearth. It's the home planet. It looks like redwoods and stuff like that.
Lush forest planet.
Yep. There's also the Atlar Rock, which is the moon of Timberhearth. There's a guy there. I think that's the Banjo Man or the whistling guy.
The Banjo Man. I forget which one.
Yeah. Each one of the members of Outer Wilds Ventures, which is the space program, they all play a different instrument. So I was mentioning earlier that you have a couple of tools. One of them is this I guess stereoscope or something. It's like a microphone.
Yeah.
Yeah. That if you point it in a certain direction, it will pick up audio signal. And typically a good way to start a planet is to go to one of the planets and just try to find the other member of Outer Worlds or Outer Wilds Venture. And they're playing some instrument. And I'm pretty sure the Atlar Rock, the dude was either whistling or playing banjo or something like that.
I think it was the whistle guy. That sounds right.
Could be. And then there is the Hourglass Twins, which are 2 sort of orbiting planets. They're the closest ones to the sun. And one of them is a pretty sizable rock that isn't completely hollow, but it looks like the equator of it is kind of been hollowed out.
Yeah.
And the other planet is a gigantic sand planet that is slowly pouring the sand from its body into the other planet.
Yeah.
And so there's always just this gigantic column of sand that goes from one to the other. Another very frightening mechanic because if you get caught in there, you get caught with the sand.
Yeah.
And taken away from your ship and onto the other planet.
Yep. Just all of a sudden, oh, sorry. Because it'll rotate around too. So if you're not paying attention to where that column is at all times, it could just sneak up on you and just spit you to the other planet.
Or just out into orbit again.
Or out into orbit.
So scary to just
and then
be
you're away from your ship. Yeah.
Because it's oh no, I can't catch the planets. I'm not going fast enough.
Yeah.
The physics are all pretty accurate a little bit in this game where the thrust of your ship it's not absolute velocity. You're just increasing your acceleration. And everything has physics to it. And so if you just are on your person, not in your ship, and you go out of range of the planet, the planet's moving faster than you are.
Yeah. Then you could ever catch up to it. It's over. It's over at that point.
Plus you have air and fuel that you need to watch out for.
Yeah. Also, it's so good when you get lost in space and when you run out of fuel, you start using your air.
Yes. Yeah.
That is some real dread right there once you start seeing your air go down.
Because like, especially if you're close to like, I also fell into Brittle Hollow at some point and like got warped out to that far area. And there's a little space station near there that you can get to that will like take you back to another place. But multiple times went there and had no fuel and just had to hope like, God, I hope I have enough air to get to the station to get out of here. Speaking of Brittle Hollow, that's the third planet from the sun. And it is this planet that is like the surface of it is intact a little bit, but it's falling apart pretty much the entire part of their time you're playing the game.
Like giant pieces of it just keep on falling into the core of the planet.
Right.
And which I think is a black hole, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. There's a black hole at the center of Brittle Hollow. Not necessarily in the way that black holes are typically depicted. Like normally they are these gigantic forces that will pull anything in, but this is kind of a small one. There is a lore reason for that, but there's a black hole in the middle which will transport you out into a different part of the solar system, as we were mentioning.
Yeah, there is a Matthew McConaughey in there somewhere.
Yeah, if you can find him. There is Giant's Deep, which is a water planet, which just scares the shit out of me every time I go on there. Like, because there's an atmosphere around it, and you can't see into it as you're approaching the planet.
Yeah.
But once you pass through the threshold, it's just chaos on the surface. It's like there's
giant
a huge
storm.
Yeah. And you will pretty quickly fall into the water, which I initially thought was a really bad thing. It ends up not being that big of a deal at all for your ship. But like the first time I went through the atmosphere, it was just viscerally frightening to be like in a storm trying to get like right side up in my ship trying to fly
so
around.
Disorienting when you first go into that planet, because there's like giant water spout like tornadoes going on as well, and they'll suck you up and it's like shoot you down super fast.
Yeah.
So if you go into that planet and you hit one of those, it just immediately dunks you like so far into the ocean, and you have no idea what happened because it was just so quick.
Yeah.
And then also on that same planet, sometimes the islands will get shot up into the sky if they go over one of those spouts or go into one of them. So it's just a wild, chaotic planet.
Yeah, there's like a brief moment if you're on any of those land masses where you will like get pulled up into the atmosphere. The gravity goes away and so does the air. And so like, it's this brief moment where you're like, wait, why am I having to like use my thruster to get around? I was like, oh my God, I'm in space right now.
Yeah. I got yeeted out of the planet.
Just again, just frightening. You feel vulnerable. Like there is the whims of nature don't care where you are at any moment. There is also a space station that's orbiting Giant's Deep that you see at the beginning of every loop. It's this like kind of like cylinder looking space station with like almost a hilt at the bottom of it. And at the beginning of every loop, you see it explode and like break. So part of the at least my initial mystery was like, what is going on in there? I got to know what happened to that station.
Absolutely.
So that is part of it. And then the final planet that you know about in the beginning is Dark Bramble, which is another horrifying, scary place. It looks like essentially a seed, kind of like the core of a seed. And it has like bits of an older planet that are being sort of like thrust outward from its core. Almost as if there was something inside of a planet that like exploded it out, and all these like tendrils are still kind of holding on to the like bits that are left. And when you try to go there, it like, if you go into it, it is different on the inside, like physically, like the space that it inhabits is much larger on the inside than it is from the outside. And you will notice that in there's essentially just like ominous music and a couple of lights far out in the distance.
Yeah. The first time I went in there, I was like, absolutely fucking not, and left immediately. I'm like, I am not ready for this.
Nah.
I noped out of there so fast.
It's probably wise, because I was like, ooh, a light. Let me drive directly towards it.
Oh, no.
Which is the bad decision. I won't spoil it because it's fun if you don't want to know yet.
You got anglered.
I got murked. So those are the main planets. As you said, there is also a comet that is going around the solar system called the Interloper that initially doesn't have that much on it. It's just like an old ship there. And you're not really sure what to do with it initially. There's more to it. And then there is also another planet that won't talk about yet.
Mystery planet.
A mystery planet. Yeah. Anyway, so that's sort of the makeup of the solar system itself. It's worth noting that here, because we got a couple of like in the listener questions, a lot of people were just like, I'm so motion sick playing this game, or like, can you just tell me what happens in the game? I can't play it because I get so sick.
Yeah.
That it's a pretty intense, like physical experience, I think, for some people. Because like down is not a thing in the game a lot of the times, you know, like you will flip flop in and out of having orientation. Like given or taken from you.
Yes.
Depending on like if you're on a planet
at a moment's
or if you're
notice sometimes.
Yeah. And so it can be like really disorienting, I think, for some people. Like I was saying before we were recording, the first day I played it, I was like, oh no, did I like get more motion sick since playing this? The last time. And it was just the first day for whatever reason. I like pulled it up again, was like, oh, it's fine. But I think because the game can't pull a lot of tricks with like the physicality of the space, like essentially what I'm saying there is like most games, you're not feeling the curvature of the planet that you're on, you know, like
sure.
It's not really a thing, but because the planets are like relatively small, if you start walking, you see the horizon changing, you know, so even just moving forward is like kind of a dizzying experience. I'm not positive about this, but I think that like your reticle kind of moves just like down a little bit while you're moving across a planet to like compensate for the curvature.
Sure.
I could be wrong about that. And it might just be the fact that like the horizon is moving and that's what it like looks like. But regardless, it's kind of an intense experience to play it sometimes. But you said you had no problem with this. Just built different.
I don't know. I had no problem with it. I've never gotten motion sick.
Not at all.
I'm very fortunate that way. There was one time at night I was on a bus. We were going through, what is it, Highway 42 or 46, something in California, between Calumet City and Paso, that really windy road. And this bus driver was just hauling ass. And I was like, motion sickness sucks. Motion sickness sucks. So I get that. But this game did not make me motion sick. I think it's because it's not a very like realistic looking game. It has a stylized cartooniness to it. I think that helped me. And it just didn't bother me. If my physical self is not moving, I'm fine. I think that's what it comes down to.
Sure. Yeah. It's weird. I like sometimes I will get motion sick and sometimes I won't. It's really a hit or miss basis. Like VR, sometimes I can totally stomach it and it's not that big of a deal. And other times, like I'll fire up a game and just immediately be like, I can't do this. Like I feel terrible. I played this VR game called Red Matter, which should have made me sick, like motion sick. I was firing it up and I'm like, people have good reviews of this game, but you know, it's a first person game where your character moves with like some regularity. And that is usually a big time I'm going to puke ingredient for me.
Puke City, huh?
Yeah, but for whatever reason, it ended up being okay. Whereas like I fired up a racing game in VR once, hit the gas and was like, I will vomit right now. I had to immediately stop playing the game.
What game?
I don't remember. It must have been like Project Cars or something like that. Because I was like, I just tried it. Like on my Steam library, it says like played for 7 minutes.
Damn.
So like I couldn't do it. So I don't know what about this game does or doesn't trigger it. And again, as I was saying to you before we were recording, like Hardspray Shipbreaker, one of my favorite games from that year, was also like 0G, like you're just rotating in space. And I had to play it on a very small monitor so that I didn't get quite as sick because I have like a very wide monitor normally, and that like couldn't do that one at all. So I don't know. I can't make heads or tails of why I do or don't get motion sick, but for whatever reason was able to push past on this one, which is a real mercy. Cause like I'd be pretty bummed out if I just couldn't play this at all. It's a really special game and
it is.
It would really suck to not be able to do that. Anything else? I'm trying to think if there's anything else we can talk about prior to spoilers for the base game.
I guess that comes to mind.
We can talk about, I guess, like the themes of it without going into specifics, but like, I think the game is really cool and it's commenting on a lot of stuff. I think existence is a big one of them that like it will eventually touch on, but I do really appreciate the approach to like discovery and science that the game has. Because like it feels like the lore and the story is so connected to what you're doing as a player of like, you know, nothing at the beginning of this game. Like they give you so little for what the like point of it is. And it's really just on your, on you to be like, I want to unravel these mysteries and figure out like what's going on.
Yeah.
And so much of what's going on in the story is other people trying to do exactly that, whether or not they're like the Hearthians like now or, other people in history. And that's just like so cool because it is weirdly optimistic. I like, I'm not the hugest fan of this movie altogether. It was a good one, but I'm not like a huge defender, but like The Martian kind of feels similar in that like there's just so much resilience in Matt Damon's character in that one of like, I will solve this fucking problem whether or not like I should be able to or not. And that feels kind of similar in this game of like the odds are very often against you and you are this tiny little squishy being flying around the solar system. But like there's just a certain amount of drive at a certain point of like, I want to explore this place and I want to unravel what's happening here.
Yeah. There's a lot of hope in the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it feels like, and I think that is by design because the game is giving you so many little breadcrumbs that it really keeps you going, like believing that there is some way to stop this catastrophe from happening, right? Mm-hmm. So it keeps that hope alive very, very nicely throughout the game. I agree that it's a fun take on science. It very much respects and loves science, which is refreshing nowadays, unfortunately. And in the current politics of this world, this might be seen as a woke game in that regard. But I enjoy it.
Gravity does exist.
Gravity does exist. Not unless I put an executive order out that says it doesn't, please. Okay. Come on. Anyways, I digress. That is a nice part of it. And I think that's just like the will to survive, perseverance against, overwhelming odds.
Yeah.
I think you put it well with resilience, right?
Yeah.
You and the player and the player character and all of these people, we're trying to discover things and create a better and happier world. And part of that is keeping it from blowing up, right? Which is like it feels like there is this grand future that is planned for us and this race of people that we're fighting for, because they do feel like such fledglings, right? Like that this world just feels, this space program is kept together by like duct tape and string. Yeah. And it just seems like they're just getting started. So it really makes you want to help them and to get them to where they want to be.
Yeah, I don't know if this is like really in the text of the game necessarily, but the feeling I got was that like I'm maybe the person who is taking this the most serious, Obviously like one of the narrative devices, the framing of it is that like you encounter this old relic early on in the game that like is from, you find out the Nomai, this like other civilization, and it like looks at you and its eyes all light up and shit. And you're like, what was that? Like what happened? And when you die or when the loop ends, you see that statue again, like sort of replaying your memories. And so there's that's essentially like, the narrative framing for why you can remember what's going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, like part of the I'm taking this the most seriously is, of course, like you remember the last loop and everybody doesn't know that the sun is about to explode. But even still, like a lot of the people are like not necessarily doing science actively. They're just playing music, which I think on first blush, you're like, I'm going to fucking solve all this. And you guys are wasting your time. Whereas I'm the big science boy. Mm-hmm. And I think that the game
am the science boy.
I am the science guy. Sit over there, Bill. It's not your turn anymore.
I am Dr. Nye now.
I am Beekman, the science man. What a weird knockoff for Bill Nye the science guy. Beekman's World? Was that the name of the show? Beekman's Lab?
Wasn't that a Muppet? Didn't that character predate Bill Nye?
Beekman's World. No, you're thinking of Beaker the Muppet.
I'm thinking of Beaker the Muppet. Beekman's
World was just bad Bill Nye the science guy.
Was that the one with the big rat?
Yeah, there was a guy.
Yeah, the big rat.
Who was clearly in a rat costume, yeah.
I think about this show sometimes, and it's so weird. It is so weird.
Again, it was like, can we make Bill a little weirder? What if he wore green?
What if he wore green and had crazier hair and had a talking rat?
But yeah, like I think eventually it does go on to say that like the people who are around you are just as important, right? That these people aren't just wasting time, which we'll talk about when we get to the spoiler section. Yeah, I think that the existence stuff is really cool. That's the stuff that really like stuck with me, I think, upon the game ending, was just connected to kind of the drive to survive of it all.
Yeah.
And it's
Is that a plug for the Netflix show?
Yeah, you should go watch Drive to Survive F1. Big shouts out to, I don't know, Williams Racing. Let's go with them. They need the support right now.
There you go.
Yeah, that like everybody has this sort of like innate craving to continue living and existing. And that like there can be some downsides to that almost.
Yeah.
And like the desire to just like constantly continue existing is like, it can be troubling at certain points.
Yeah. The ending really does a good job of questioning a lot of what you've been doing throughout the game.
But I think it's ultimately pretty hopeful though.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that like it is very existentially scary in certain parts of it.
Yes, absolutely.
So yeah, I think like that's most of the base game. Why don't we touch on the DLC before we get into like spoilers for either one of them?
Sure, let's do it.
So yeah, The Outer Wilds Echoes of the Eye was the DLC that came out for that game. The DLC came out essentially 2 years later in 2021 in September. And yeah, same team, all the seems like the same folks. And the setup of it is that essentially there is this satellite in deep orbit that you can go and find like in the base game still. It's just like out there. It's like they're I can't remember what they call it, but like a deep field satellite or something like that.
Yeah.
And in the DLC, there's like this house that gets unlocked on Timberhearth. And there's a bunch of stuff in there. And one of the things in there is this like transcript of some of the like astronauts talking to each other. And they're like, oh my God, like, yeah, it's taking pictures and all this is really cool. Like, I can't believe it's totally out there. And one of the notes that they have is like, there's a planet in there that doesn't make sense. Or like there's some like orbital
an anomaly
body
of some sort.
Yeah, that shouldn't be there. I don't know what that is. And you essentially have to like figure out based on like the degrees of the photo taken, like where the satellite was when that was taken.
Yeah.
And then
it's a fun little puzzle in the beginning.
It's pretty neat. Yeah. It's really cool.
Feels like some real science.
Yeah, a lot of the puzzles do a lot of the time. It's like you feel like you truly have to like think about it for a second of like, what am I actually attempting to accomplish here?
Yeah.
And how could I like use the rules of this place to do that? Anyway, so you do that. And then sure enough, there is this kind of like big, like for lack of a better phrase, like planet that's completely like pitch black. You can't see it. And if you try to approach it from the satellite, you will get pretty close. And then eventually like the screen goes black and you enter into like this dock kind of like, it looks like you're inside a ship. And if you exit your little ship and then go explore this place, there is this entire other like ringed planet spaceship
It's a ring world.
Yeah, like truly I looked up and out loud said Halo because like it looks exactly like that.
Yeah, you look up, it's just a big ring, it's all going around you. Yeah.
And there's this, you essentially navigate this place through like whitewater rafting, which is very neat.
Did you get some flashbacks?
I did, yeah. I'm not a good swimmer. David and I went whitewater rafting at some point and I like got tossed out of the boat, scared the shit out of me.
Yeah. I think you got a light concussion, pretty sure.
Yeah, sure did. And I was just like, this is scary. But mercifully, it was not, for the most part, that bad, except for one moment that we'll get to in a second here.
Yes.
But so you like enter into this ring world and it's essentially just another like place to explore.
Yeah.
And like that is where the DLC takes place is this ring world. Mercifully, you don't have to go back to the satellite every time. You can just like click on the GPS and your spaceship and it'll mark it on the map. Like here's where it is right now.
But yeah, once you've been somewhere, you're like, okay, I'm good. We got it. Let's go.
Right. It's really funny actually the way that they introduce that to you. There's a person that like you wake up next to every loop, and the time after you go to the ring world, he's like, hey, you don't have the ship codes, or like you say like, oh yeah, I know you're about to tell me I don't have the ship codes, but I do. And he's like, no, that's not what I meant. Like, I was just going to mention to you that you can go to any place that you've seen on your ship before. Just hilarious. Really, really funny.
Yeah, just letting you know. Reminder.
Also, I realized that I was saying he there. I think the races, they just refer to each other as they. I think they're like gender neutral for the most part. was very fun. That's a nice little nod there.
Little touch, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was cool. But anyway, yeah, so you work through this place, and do you want to explain like what the space is and like what is there?
Yeah, just real quick though, I just want to say, talking about how the game does scale well, when you first get through like the cloaking of this ring world and go up on it, it is so terrifying in a way of just like how stark and desolate it feels just all of a sudden coming upon this massive object in space and then getting into
really
this.
Scary.
It's scary. It's spooky at first. And then you get into this world that is just so lush and bright and vibrant and just like totally opposite of what it felt like outside. But this world so the central feature is a river running through the middle of it. And there's cliffs and islands on the sides and in the middle of the river. And then there's a giant reservoir as well, a dam near pretty much right in the beginning of the area when you get in, like near the entrance to the ring world. So there's a raft right when you get out, and the raft gets moved around by your flashlight. So you there's 4 different little pylons on there that light up and push you in a certain direction if you are looking at it with your light. So that's
can I just say too, like, just absolute fucking masterclass with these little moments where you walk into a room and they introduce the idea that this place responds to light by having you enter into a place and it's just pitch black. Like you can't see shit. And so immediately your instinct is going to be like, well, I should turn on my flashlight. Yeah. And then something in the middle of the room like lights up and starts spinning. And it sort of clues you into the idea of like, oh, I think this is a flashlight sort of deal. Yep. And then the raft that you drop down onto, there's like these little green orbs on it, on each end of it. And your flashlight's pointing at one of them and it lights up. And then almost inevitably you're going to move your camera and you will see that it like stops being bright. And just, it teaches you so much without you really even participating at all. Like, it's like just by you being there and interacting in the way that you would think to immediately clues you into like, okay, here's how this place works. It's totally different, but you got it. Don't worry. Amazing.
You can figure it out. Light. This is the light portion of the game.
Yeah. Sorry. Continue.
No, you're good. And then you just start going down this river, and there's little settlements that you come across, and of course you naturally want to go and explore and see what's going on. And so you start finding these reels that you can interact with, and then there's little rooms that are clearly auditoriums of some sort with like big screens and projectors. So you have to go and find a reel and then find a light source, and then you can start looking at, okay, what the heck is this place? These reels are like little histories of what is going on this ring world, why it's here, who the people are who brought it here, why did they make it, why did they come to your solar system in the first place, right? And so that's the initial pool that starts to bring you through this new area. Is like, what the heck is this place? Why did these people come here? And why are some of these reels that I'm looking at have portions of them that are burned out? Like, what are they trying to hide as well from their history and from other people maybe looking at their history? Or what are they trying to forget as well, maybe? Because this place is also clearly dilapidated. All these, there's no living creatures that you can see anywhere. The trees are pretty sad and barren. They're kind of dying. The settlements are more like ruins. A lot of them are just beat up, worn down. There's holes in the roofs, there's holes in the floors, right? So there's obviously something has gone bad in this place as well, is an immediate thought, right, that is communicated to you. So just by going through these different areas, you're exploring, you're minding your own business, and then they have their own version of, the sun going supernova, in that all of a sudden you at first you feel just like a rumble on the controller and just like a creak, and you're like, oh, what was that? That was weird. But like maybe you're in a building or you're not looking in the right direction. You don't know
Did I trigger something
what
that
it was.
Yeah,
you're like looking around, whatever. And then you go along, you keep on exploring, la-di-da, whatever. It's fun. There's a new area. This is all good. It's a DLC. Hey, it's cool, right? Look, explore more things in Outer Wilds. It's great. And then all of a sudden you hear a louder crash and then a rushing of water. And then if you're close to the beginning of the game, you get immediately swept away and killed because the reservoir has collapsed and the whole entire place is getting flooded now.
Yeah, the dam broke essentially.
Yeah, the dam broke and there's a little tidal wave coming for you, a little tsunami. Didn't expect that, right? Yeah, so spooky the first time it happened. I was so confused. I'm like, what the fuck just happened? I don't think I died, but then I like got to the surface and there's just all this debris floating on the water with you. You're like trying to jet boost your way out of the water, but it doesn't work that great, honestly. So you just have to find a place to just hobble out of the water, like a shore or some piece of wood that's floating that you can get onto, and then just regain your bearings after that. So then, of course, the thought process is, okay, now there are things that are going to be accessible before and after the dam breaks, because it really does a number on all the settlements. It like washes them away or like makes them topple, changes them around, and then the game is afoot at that point.
Yeah, it's like you have access or don't have access to certain things depending on like what part of the cycle you're in.
Exactly.
Of like, has the dam broken yet, and can I access this stuff? Essentially, the main thrust of this one is essentially, to me at least, I was like, I'm trying to figure out like what happened here in the ring world, because it's very unnerving, because like you're saying, like the dam wouldn't break if this was a place that was inhabited by people who are still around, you know?
Yeah, to maintain.
Yeah, and so I like, because all of these reels have like these like kind of goat creatures or like owl creatures in them, and you're like, well, where the fuck are they?
Yeah. Where did they all go?
Yeah. And my first clue into this, I think I just got lucky in that there are these like torches that you can find that are all like lit up with like green light. And I pulled one of them off in one of those like rooms that's circular and it has like kind of murals on them.
Yeah.
And it like, I heard something move behind it and there's like this hidden wall that you can go through. And that was my first clue as to what's going on there. We'll save it for the spoiler stuff, but I was like, oh, okay, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. There's a deep mystery that gets revealed.
Right. Yeah. And I think without doing spoiler stuff, like it's so interesting that they were able to achieve this tone, because I think while the main game is frightening to me specifically because of the like big lizard brain scale stuff happening, I don't think it was a horror game by any measure. Like the base game is so much more about like, you should feel emboldened to explore the solar system. And like, you should not have fearlessness, but like there's a lot of like, the game wants you to feel brave and like, I can go and discover everything here. Yeah. And there are so many mysteries just waiting for me to figure them out and unravel them. Whereas this one feels way the opposite. It's like, this world is oppressive and like, you probably should be scared.
Yeah.
You know,
should
like,
you even be here?
Yes. Yeah. It almost feels like you've broken into somebody's house or city or something like that. Like you shouldn't be in there, which is all just very interesting. And I think also thematically, it's exploring much like almost the inverse of the story, where like the main story is about like, again, kind of discovery and this like hopeful feeling. And this one, like you were mentioning earlier, is much more about like trying to hide things and like lock things away.
Yeah.
Which is so the opposite, like the not the Zonai.
The Nomai?
The Nomai.
Yeah, no, the Zonai. Yeah, King Raru's there.
Yeah, different ancient civilization. But the Nomai are like, they document everything they're doing very clearly, including the things that they like are ashamed of. Like there are things that they've written down that they're like, we shouldn't have done this. Or like, I can't believe that we've made this decision, but here was the outcome and here's what we have to do about it now.
Yeah, real scientists.
Yeah, right. And like this civilization seemingly has like a much different relationship with discovery and like science. There's a certain part of them that is like zealotrous. What is the?
There's a religious fervor to them that you can kind of feel.
Yeah. Yeah. And so there is this kind of like, it seems like they are deciding what should or shouldn't be shown to people.
Yeah.
And you get to see kind of the trade-off there in more ways than one. There are scales to that of what they are showing and hiding.
Exactly.
It's really good. But yeah, this game definitely relies quite a bit more on the horror part of all this.
Yeah, it is trying to make you uncomfortable pretty clearly in some portions of it.
Yeah. Which like, I think there are sections that are very video game scary, which I didn't find quite as frightening. Like the dam breaking was the most frightening moment of this entire DLC to me.
I see that.
I had the exact same experience of like going outside trying to see what was going on and getting swept away and like, oh my God, my boosters aren't working.
Yeah.
Like
you just see a giant torrent of water coming at you. You're like, I'm
so
cooked.
Scary. Yeah.
I'm cooked.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, I tried to like jump and boost over it, and I'm like, nope, that's not. I don't have nearly enough gas for that. Yep. Yeah, and yeah, it's frightening, like just physically. But again, there are parts that are leaning much more into the like tropey video game scary stuff, which we can get into eventually. But yeah, I think it just at least tonally is depicting a lot more of like trying to stay hidden and, you know, keep things in the shadows, which you as the player eventually interact with mechanically as well, which I find interesting.
The light and shadow is a big part of this game. Yeah,
totally. Yeah. How did you feel about the DLC, like compared to the base game?
Great question. I feel like I enjoy the tone and the gameplay of the base game more than the DLC. Mm-hmm. I very much enjoyed the DLC. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
it's a pretty different experience than the base game.
Yeah,
I feel like my favorite parts in the base game were a lot more like exploring in the ship and navigating the ship and that kind of being kind of my home base. Mm-hmm. And you don't get that in this one, right? You're very much out of your ship. You go in and like there's no way to bring your ship into this building, right? It would really kind of break how you interact with the environment, so it makes sense, right? But the on foot navigation and gameplay of the game, I thought when I played the base game as well, it didn't feel quite as snappy or didn't feel quite as responsive as flying in the ship does, which makes sense because you're playing like a squishy tadpole person,
right?
In a cloth spacesuit held together by strings and duct tape. But at the same time, it's not as enjoyable of a mechanical experience for me. But I would also say that it has some of the more interesting gameplay mechanics compared to the base game, especially when you get further into it. I feel like it really makes you think differently than the base game does. It's kind of more of like a metaphysical experience. But then it also has some things that, like you said, were very much more like traditional video gamey sort of feels to them, which I thought was not as enjoyable and kind of not what I really loved about the base game as well.
Yeah.
So it is fun and good, and it has really high highs, but also lower lows for me than the base game, right? Some great puzzles, some great mechanics, but the things that I didn't like kind of stuck out like a sore thumb in comparison to the base game. And I didn't feel that way in the base game at all. I just felt like it was one consistent high point. Personally.
Sure. Yeah. I think I'm largely with you. I agree that there's a certain thing mechanically that happens that feels like punishing more than the base version of the game ever did.
Yes.
Like, even when you die, I was like, well, okay, I'll go back. It's like the Hades thing of like, I got other stuff I can do. Like that's not that big of a loss.
Yeah.
But there are sections that demand a certain amount of patience from you. And then also if you can't do it, that it like really kind of punishes in a way that is tough.
Yeah.
And so that does feel a little bit rougher, but I also agree that like there is such cool shit going on in here that I really, really liked.
Yeah.
I didn't really mind getting out of the ship too much just because like navigating on a boat is also fun to me. Like they replaced it with something.
They do rapids pretty well. It was fun.
They do, yeah. It like you can pick up speed pretty quick and be like, oh my God, like we were really like cruising through this section of rapid.
Yeah. And if you get sucked in, the sense of being pulled under the water is also scary.
Intense. Yeah. And so like I was mostly just impressed that they were able to make a new loop out of this game. Like they could have just added another planet and like had it be explorable in the same way that you were used to. But I was like, oh, wow, they did kind of another game in here.
They did.
Like you can't use your translator. Your little like probe is not quite as useful as it normally is.
Yeah.
There are different mechanics and like the slides all have their own thing and these kind of like lanterns that you have to hang on to. There's another mechanic eventually once you figure out how to get a hold of it. And so like they're just adding a bunch of stuff that I was like, yeah, it feels kind of singular and like unique. That they could have put this game out on its own and still been like, oh, it's pretty good. That's a pretty good video game.
Yeah.
It just so happens to be DLC for Outer Wilds. So yeah, I was pretty impressed with it. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, no, I also had a great time with it. It's very fun, just a little more uneven than the base game.
Sure. Yeah, that's all. Totally.
Yeah.
Okay. Why don't we move on to spoilies
Let's spoil
both these games. So if you don't want to hear about this, now's your jumping off point. Good hanging and take care. But for the rest of you, let's talk about what happens in these games, because I know there's a couple of you who can't handle the motion sickness of it all that also want to know what happened. Okay, so let's do it. Yeah, so let's start with the Echoes of the Eye because it is kind of self-contained for the most part.
Yeah.
And then we'll loop back around and talk about the rest of the game and what happens in it. But yeah, so like at some point you will discover through these like depictions of the slides that this group seemingly they heard the like call of the Eye of the Universe.
Yes.
Which is a thing
in your solar system.
Right, which by this point, if you have played the game, you will know what that is. Essentially, in the normal game, you are constantly trying to figure out how to like get to this place, and the other races are always kind of looking around like, how do we get to the Eye of the Universe? We can detect its signal, but we don't know where or what it is even.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently this race had also heard that call from your universe and went there essentially with this ring world. Mm-hmm. I think they like ravaged one of their planets to like build this ship to get there too.
Yeah, this was something. I think this was like the first reel you find.
Yeah.
It depicts them picking up the signal, being amazed at what they are finding and seeing.
Right.
And what is then taken out of that reel is them building a religious sect around worshiping this Eye of the Universe, and then just completely and totally ravaging their home world to create a ship, the Stranger, which is what they call it, which is what you're on in this game, in this DLC, to get there and to essentially worship it or make contact with it in some way that is fulfilling to them, right?
Yeah, it's unclear initially what their plan is to do with it once they get here, but their initial intent was like, let's just go to the Eye.
Let's go there and say what's up, see what's good.
Yeah, and there's all these like, you get these other reels of them like founding like a church and stuff like that. Like you see one of the like religious artifacts depicting the Eye itself. So like clearly at some point they were like all about the Eye.
Yeah.
And kind of made a religion out of it. And there's also these slides that you get that there was also some kind of like fallout as well, that like once they got there, somebody, I don't know if they saw it or they had some kind of vision or something, but like shit went badly and like everybody was like, oh no, we've made a mistake. Or at least that's kind of what I interpreted from that reel.
They have some sort of ability to, well, they do have an expressibility to share their memories.
Right.
And I think they also have an ability to like potentially either have some sort of clairvoyance or to read the minds of other things. And so I think they tried to do that with the Eye, or they did do it with the Eye, and they saw it just like decimating the whole solar system and all of them as well. And then they realized, wow, we've made a huge mistake. This thing isn't God. This thing isn't good. It's evil.
It's the
devil. This thing is bad. This thing is the devil. We've been worshiping the devil. We've destroyed our planet to make this ship to come and hang out with the devil. We've made a huge mistake. So then they just go and start blowtorching, just like burning down their churches, just completely changing their whole entire, I guess, character around this, going from this like religious sect that's kind of built around, I guess, hope and hope in some way, shape or form, right? Around the Eye, to being just like so militant against the Eye and kind of destroying any evidence of what they have done in their shame to get there.
Yeah, it's like a pretty harrowing depiction. Like, something
pretty intense.
The base game doesn't really touch on. Like, there is harrowing stuff in the base game with Nonai. I always forget.
Nomai.
Good lord, the Zonai, the Nomai, the Nomai. They encounter really serious situations, but there is always this sense of like, let's at least try our best here. Like, if we follow the truth and we just try and keep discovering and like figuring out the secrets of the universe, like even if we die, we will help the next person, right? Like just record it, let's get it all down on paper, and like some other generation, hopefully it will help them, you know? Whereas this one's so different. Like burning a church is a really intense image in this one. And you can find that church on the Stranger too. Stranger? Is that what it's called?
The Stranger.
Say, what are you buying, Outer Wilds? You can find that church that they burned down, and like it's just there. So like there's all this really harrowing stuff, and you're also starting to see that there is this like artifact or something that they like put a bunch of locks on as they were like figuring out what to do here, and like drove it under the water essentially.
Yes, there was something they really wanted and needed to seal away with a lot of hide security. Yeah. And so there's that combined with the fact that you also start to see these visions of like them. It seems like they're escaping somewhere. Yeah.
And by this point, I've also encountered like in the basement of that room, there's all these like decrepit versions of those creatures, like look like almost like mummified versions of themselves. And they're all holding these like artifacts with like almost a light of fire in them.
Like a green fire of some sort.
Right. And so if you can eventually figure out how to get your hands on one of those artifacts and then go back to one of these fires or a number of different ways. But if you get to one of these places with the artifacts, you can go to this other place, essentially. It is this like seemingly
a secret world.
Yeah, it's a secret world. Kind of seems like a dream world that is a little bit more like tangible than normal.
Yeah.
And you'll eventually figure out that like most of them are in there still.
Yes. Their consciousness is in there of some sort.
Yeah. Which is so cool that they are able to depict that mostly wordlessly, that you just kind of surmise at some point like, oh, that's where they went. They're all still intact in here.
Yeah. You can, they give you hints. You can hear things kind of like moving around, but you can't see them, or you can see like shadows of them, like watching like home movies of their old home world, right?
Yeah.
Reminiscing about the past. So there are like little spooky things going on in this world. And this is where it really gets kind of scary, this game.
Yes. Yeah. The thing that we were alluding to prior with like it being punishing is that like there are explicit sections of like stealth where you have to like sneak by these creatures who are like looking for you in the dark.
Yes.
And if they find you, they'll essentially kick you out, but you just wake up again because like you're kind of in this like trance almost.
Yeah.
And that's like, I guess not as punishing as starting the whole loop over, but it does suck because like it takes a while to get to those places that you were trying to sneak around in. And so like it can be frustrating to be like, all right, I just need to get through this one spot. And then one of these owl deer creatures comes out of nowhere and you're like, oh man, dang it. Like
I know they really come out because they have lanterns as well. And like the other thing about this world is that since it is a dream virtual sort of world, you don't have any of your gear. You don't have your suit. You don't have your thrusters. You don't have your signal scope or your probe or whatever. So you have the ability to jump and then use this lantern with the green fire in it to either focus and like look ahead of you like a flashlight. But when you do that, you can't see anywhere like around you. It's just like a narrow beam. You can have it just like regular. So it's like a little lantern and you can kind of see around you, but not far, or you can conceal it and just be totally in the dark to hide from the creatures trying to find you.
Again, hiding mechanically, which I was like, okay, I'm on board with that. Yeah,
exactly. Right. But they also, I don't know, these creatures are really good at hiding themselves too.
Yes.
They also don't just have their lantern on the whole time so you can always see them. They will conceal it too and like look for you, and then you unconceal yourself and like there's a guy just right there next to you. It's like, oh, okay, I'm done. I'm out.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it feels like there's not a good way to know or to like get around them. It just feels like kind of like the luck of the draw sometimes.
Yeah, I used a couple of like hints essentially at this moment. I would just look up like no spoilers hint for this section.
Yeah.
Because like it did become pretty frustrating to be like, I don't even know what I'm supposed to be doing. I see that there's bad guys in this area, but like, what is my objective here? Yeah. Because in the base game, it's like, if I don't know my objective, I'm kind of just going to keep like reaching into the darkness to be like, well, what is this? Or what is that? Or I haven't been over there. Let me check that out. Whereas in this one, it's like, if you go to somewhere you don't know, you might get caught and kicked out. you know?
There's always another thread to pull in the base game. Whereas with this one, it's like, I know what I need to do right now, but I'm not good enough to do it. And it also feels like the game sometimes made it purposefully more difficult to do these tasks than maybe it needed to be. I don't think the difficulty added anything to the experience personally.
Yeah, because I felt plenty vulnerable in the baseline game.
Yeah.
And so like, I don't necessarily need that to be that much harder. I understand wanting to depict this kind of like fright, but even still, it didn't always work for me. But regardless, you are able at some point to figure out like what to do and get past these creatures. The main puzzle that you're trying to solve is there is like essentially these codes that you're looking for. Anyway, so eventually you will go through each one of these areas and they'll just give you a code essentially at the end of it that you can use. And the culmination of all of this is that you will encounter this like prisoner that they have that they've locked away, who is alive. He's still very much alive, and it's really touching. You use this like tech that he has, and like he scans your brain and you scan his too. And so like you see what happened to him, and he also like you get to see your own story played through his eyes, which is like really nice and touching. Like plays the music of the game. you also see yourself like as a little kid, and it's like that rocks. It's just cute. Really good. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he also like kind of howls afterwards, which I was like, damn, that was pretty cool. Like I liked that. It seemed like he was just like overwhelmed with the amount of emotion of like experiencing all your memories at once, that he just like had to let out a shout, which I'm like, that's cool. Film. I don't know.
I think that part hit well too, because when you are going through the different spooky levels of this secret world, this subconscious world, when you activate essentially the sentries, the guardians of these places to start looking for you, you hear this same sort of howl, but it is different. It is like the timbre is different, the pitch is different. So it's cool to hear like wow, I'm overwhelmed with emotion, and like this is coming like a joyful, sad howl as opposed to an alerting howl.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You can tell that there's like different emotion being put into it. Mm-hmm. It's cool. And essentially, like, again, correct me if this is your interpretation as well, but it seemed like this creature had like temporarily turned on the signal again. He like took off the barrier around the eye.
Yeah. So these people like essentially like imprisoned the eye so that nothing else could take in its signals and come and find it. And he decided, no, they need to, it needs to be free, I guess.
Yeah.
And people need to make their own decisions. He's kind of like a strict freedom sort of guy. And yeah, he undid it, and then they found out and redid it again, and then imprisoned him away for forever. Right. Yeah.
Right. Which is why they've all sort of like decayed, and somehow he is able to like still be alive here. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so that explains some other stuff that I think we can get into about the base game. But essentially from here, you can take him to the end of the game from the base regular version of the video game.
Yes.
And so he will show up kind of at the end ceremony, which we can talk about. So jumping back to the main game and the story of that one. Mm-hmm. I think like the part of the fun of the game is the discovery of the story, because it can be essentially told in any route. Like the designers don't know what planet you're going to go to first. And so like it's designed, I think, to be discovered asynchronously, to just like go to one planet, check something out, figure something else out, and then like get a different part of it or miss something and still have to be able to piece it together. And so like, I think on paper, when we describe the story, some of it might be like, it seems interesting, but okay. And I think part of that is that like the delivery method is the cool thing about it.
Yeah.
That it constantly feels like you're like, man, I wonder what happened to this character, what happened on this planet. Mm-hmm. Because there is like a fair amount of environmental storytelling going on where it's like, why is this planet the way that it is? Or like, what happened in this space to make it this way?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so like you are constantly trying to figure out what went on. And so like just saying the answers out loud, I suspect won't be quite as satisfying, but even still, you're here, you know what you signed up for. Mm-hmm. So I guess to start like pretty far back, essentially that one signal that the prisoner let out from the stranger, this other far-flung group of people called the Nomai caught it at some point. They're like, yo, what was that? That's nuts.
Yeah.
Planned this whole trip to go there. And then when they got to this solar system,
when you say plan this whole trip, it just makes me think they're going on vacation.
Yeah. Yeah. They put their button-up Hawaiian shirts in their suitcases.
Yeah. Got their hotel,
their chargers,
you know,
crammed it all into the sedan.
Planned some excursions.
And got here. But by the time they got here, the signal had been shut off again. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of their experience was just trying to figure out like what happened to the signal? Why is it not showing anymore? And you do see some responses to that. A lot of the like spiral conversations that they have, the implication I feel like is that they will start a thread of thinking and then a spiral will come off of it as if to say like, here's an option or here's an idea for that.
And these
like
spirals are how they look, right? When it's written down, right, their language is like a bunch of spirals. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And so you'll often see them be like, why did the eye stop transmitting signal? And like some of them will say like, maybe it's sentient and didn't want us to like come anymore, or maybe it's sentient and it was just a one-time thing. So like you see the difference in how these different species react to this signal, because they could have made a religion about it. You know, they could have said like, is it God here? But they're oftentimes like, well, we don't really know. So like, like we have to keep trying to explore to figure it out. Unfortunately, the first thing that happens when they get here on this, I think they call it the vessel, is that they crash land. I think it's inside Dark Bramble, yeah. Mm-hmm. And so they like fire off. Right, yeah, exactly. And so they fire off these, I think it's 3 probes or like escape pods essentially.
Yeah.
And one of them lands inside Dark Bramble, and like that crew essentially dies because they're trying to get out, but they can't. Another one, it lands on one of the Ash twins. I can't remember which one. Mm-hmm. And or I think it's on the Ash twin. I don't remember, but there's the other one's on Brittle Hollow, which I think is where like a lot of their civilization ends up settling for a little while.
Yeah.
There's one on the sand of the Ash twin as well. I think there's like an underground kind of civilization that they build there. Mm-hmm. But the earliest kind of stuff that happens here is they're just trying to figure out like, how do we survive on these planets right now? Because a lot of the phenomena that like your experiences as a character is also happening to them. Brittle Hollow isn't falling apart, but like the Ash twin thing is still happening. And they're like, why is this going on? Like, what's going on here? Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, you essentially just slowly start to unravel like that they were here for a while. They were here much earlier than the Hearthians like evolved, right? Because there's some of these writings where they talk about like, oh, these cute little tadpole creatures, like I hope they make it, like I hope that they like evolve and continue. They also, there is this like mining section below Timberhearth where the Nomai were like taking like resources and minerals out of the ground to be able to like build this project that we're working on. And there's a bunch of this writing that's essentially like, we have to be really conscious not to take so much that it would like interfere with the like local creatures and shit like that. Like we can't take more than would like actually be a detriment to their upbringing. I know. Yeah. Every time I'm like, God damn, these guys are so cool. And you can see it in the mining sections. There's that like place underneath Timberhearth where there's these big sections out of the wall that they had taken to build it. But like the area is still intact, like it hasn't collapsed under its own weight or anything, which is just like nice. It's nice to see that they were like conscious of like, well, we don't want to fuck up these Hearthian creatures or whatever. Like we want to let them evolve. It's a little bit like Star Trek of like, we don't want to interfere with like these early civilizations and stuff. Yeah. Which they absolutely do just constantly in Star Trek. It's like one of the prime directives or whatever.
Yeah.
But they're just like, yeah, what if we did this time? It's chill, whatever. But yeah, so they establish these early civilizations and they're trying to study the center, the eye of the universe. And like, eventually they're like, we're not really sure like what is going on here, but we're trying to find it and figure out where it is. They also discover the technology to do these like warping stations. They have figured out how to like build black holes and then build the other end of a black hole as well.
Yep.
They've also figured out that there's a slight delay between, it's like when you go into a black hole and when you come out, it's like you come out earlier than you went in or something like that, which is like how they deal with a lot of the warping, which is just so bizarre. It's so cool.
Yeah, they are the race that really gets into the science fiction-y stuff, the hard quantum science stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Like they figure out how to harness this black hole stuff so you can warp anywhere. That's also when you learn, like, if you see one of those platforms that has one of the little lights in the middle, like that's a warp position. You can go somewhere else if you try and use it. And so they discovered that. Oh, you can also do like, they have an early experiment that they ran that you can also do at some point where it's like, there's like this little like test section that'll make a tiny little black hole and a tiny exit of the black hole. You can fire your probe through it and you can see it coming out quicker than it went in. It was just so cool. It's really amazing. Like again, like it feels like you are also participating in the science part of it. Like you can experiment and see like what happened in there. Anyway, so I think there's a couple things that happen kind of in parallel, or at least for my mind, is that like they are studying the eye and they're trying to like build a couple things. One of them is this like sun station, I think. I can't remember why they were building it in the first place, but they're trying to get just like an overwhelming amount of energy to do
they're trying to harness energy from the sun.
Right. And I think that like it was in service of this other project that they were trying to figure out how to do, which is essentially like how to send someone back in time. I think it is like 22 minutes or something, or how to like essentially start themselves on a loop like that so they can kind of continually do science and like figure different shit out.
Yeah.
And they built that thing But I think at some point they were attempting like, let's try to explode the star to like get that machinery to work, right? Like they need to use the power of the sun to actually do that, to make it go supernova.
That's the amount of energy we need.
Right. And they tried it. I think that it seemed like there was a lot of discussion about this, a lot of disagreement of people being like, we shouldn't do this. Like this is way too destructive, but that they were trying to like prevent more catastrophe by doing this. And they're like, this is the only, like, it's the smart thing to do. It's kind of the trolley problem situation of like, we have to do this now so that we can save more people later. And
wasn't it already going supernova? Wasn't that what it was?
Not at the moment. No, they when they tried the experiment the first time, when they tried to explode it, it didn't work. And they were like, I'm disappointed that it didn't work in the way that we were expecting to, but I'm relieved that it didn't work perfectly. But I also remember the other part of the project is that they were trying to fire this probe into where they thought the eye was so that they could observe it and like figure out what to do with it. But that was one of the things that required all this fucking energy.
That's right. Okay. And that's the exploding platform you see in the beginning every time you wake up.
Yeah, is them firing this probe to try and observe the eye of the universe.
Good.
It is really cool. And so that's why at this point, when the star does go supernova, it finally triggers this whole like science experiment that works, that says like it gets enough energy to start the loop again at 22 minutes, right? And so by observing their like old like statue, it clues you into this, and you are able to like with the like hold on to the memories from each loop. And so now at that point, it's like, okay, well, I'm up to speed with the Nomai, and like now I need to solve what the fuck is going on with the eye of the universe, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like it's kind of tragic at this moment because you see how much effort they went into trying to like save people, and it didn't really work out in the way that they expected to. And there's almost this like long-term baton pass that happens between them and you now.
Yes.
Because you have to pick up where they left off. You've been given this weird kind of task of, well, your experiment worked however many years later, and I'm in the loop now. So like, what do I do now? I think part of their discovery too was that essentially the universe is at its like life's end, that there were like hella stars that were going supernova. And they're like, I think this is it. Like, I think this is the end of the universe. And
you can see that during the game too. You can see stars exploding in the far off distance.
Again, so unnerving to be like, oh my God, like it's not just this loop that I'm trying to break. Like the universe is dying. And so like, can I do anything about that?
Yeah.
And the Nomai seem to suggest maybe, but like it's almost sad. There's moments where you can go and talk to the other members of like the Outer Wilds expeditions, and you can tell them what's happening. And like they get so scared about it.
Yeah.
Like I talked to Chert at some point, and you're like, hey, I'm living in a time loop, and like the universe is dying, and like this is it. Like these are the last moments that you're experiencing right now. And he like stops talking to you. Like if you try to go back and talk to him, he's like, I got to think about this. And like for the rest of the loop, he won't speak to you anymore.
Existential dread. You've caused Chert to malfunction.
Yeah. And so it's like unwittingly, these are the last moments of the universe, which just feels so dire in the moment. And suddenly it's like, okay, well, I guess I got to figure this out now. The solution here is that if you go to Giant's Deep, I think it's called like the Quantum Tower or something like that.
Yeah.
You go here and it's a bunch of puzzles that essentially teaches you how to deal with quantum mechanics in the video game, which is incredible. It was so cool.
It's a great little spot.
Yeah. It's like it essentially there's different like gates in this like area, and you have to observe them to keep them in the same spot. And so like in a room, there will be a gate, and if you look away, it will move. But if you keep your eye on it the whole time, you can go through it. And you're like, okay, well, I see what to do now. And then they'll purposefully be like, okay, now there's a wall in between you and the gate. And so it's like, okay, I have to throw a probe up there to make sure that it stays.
Yeah. Bring up the picture of the gate on my probe and have that on the screen the whole time, and it'll stay there because I'm observing it in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. There's also these huge like quantum stones that will show up in there every now and then, which is very unsettling.
Yeah.
Because they're emitting this like frequency in there, and you can hear them, and it just sounds like almost a choir, like a bunch of voices singing all at the the same time. Anyway, so it teaches you all these mechanics about the like quantum mechanics of the game, and then kind of the final thing you need to piece together is that every now and then in these logs they talk about the quantum moon of the solar system, and it's like it is a known thing almost. They sometimes say like, oh, the visitors in our sky tonight, and it's essentially just this moon that orbits every planet from time to time.
Yeah,
and like if you're looking at it, it will stay there, but if you look away, it will warp to another planet and like orbit that one for a little while.
And this moon, you see it throughout the game. It's there.
I didn't know what it was. Yeah.
And it's just like, it's something you see out of the corner of your eye and you go back to look and it's gone. You're like,
yes.
The fuck was it really there? So it's like, it's around the whole time and is totally elusive and confusing and mysterious. It's great.
It's so cool. Yeah. Because exactly. Every now and then you see it in the sky and like I do exactly the same thing. I'll pull up the map and be like, what planet was that? Like, I don't think I know what one that was. And it'll be gone on the map because it's somewhere else now.
Yep.
And so it's just this really neat situation where the last little bit is that you need to go to the quantum moon, but to do it, you have to like essentially look at certain planets, look away, and then look back to see like, are you there now? And if it is, then you have to keep your eye on it to be able to land on it, and then like kind of use your probe to like shoot it and observe the planet to make sure that if you try and land, it's still there. Because if you don't, you'll just kind of fly right through it and you won't be able to like actually land on it.
Exactly. So good.
It's really, really cool. Like that is such a nutty puzzle to be able to put into a video game. And essentially from there, one of the puzzles here is that there's a couple like things you see. One of them is one of these Nomai ships that you've encountered every now and then. And you can go up in there and there's some like text about what's going on.
This is on the quantum moon. Yeah.
This is on the quantum moon. Yeah.
Yes.
And there is also this like building that you can observe every now and then. Again, it's a quantum moon. So like it's not on a specific part of the planet. You just have to like see it. Or like in my case, I just spun around until it appeared.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of spinning in this portion of the game where it's just like, all right. And survey says you're there now.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you go in there, there's like a little arrow to point at like what planet you're currently orbiting. And it's really cool. Actually, hold on. I'll get ahead of myself. And there is also a like device that will close the door next to you.
Yeah.
And then if you turn your flashlight off, it's pitch black in there. You can't see anything. And if you turn your flashlight back on, you've observed and unobserved it.
Yeah.
To the point where it's now orbiting a different planet, which is just, again, so fucking cool. And again, like I said, it's really interesting because the moon will reflect a little bit of what planet you're on. So like around Giant's Deep, it's like kind of watery on the surface. Or if it's one of the ash twins, it'll have like sand on the surface, which is just like all very neat. And there is one marker for what looks like the eye of the universe.
Yeah.
And you can go there and you eventually walk around this planet and find a living Nomai, which I was like aghast when this happened. I was like, excuse me?
It's like, okay, cool.
Because they're all dead, like in this world. Like it seemed impossible that you would ever interact with one of them.
Yeah.
And there was this very cool piece of interaction where like they see, okay, I don't speak the same language you do. And so they put a bunch of like pictures on the wall to the left of them. And then you can combine them together and then they will comment on that. And so it's like you, me, Quantum Moon, one other thing. I don't remember what it was. Oh, Eye of the Universe. And then there's a couple stones for explain or one other thing. I don't remember what it was, but essentially you can just run through all these dialogues of like, explain you. Okay, I'm a Nomai. I came here a while ago. I don't know how long it's been. So like, presumably he got here and just got stuck, like out of time almost.
Yeah.
And then you can ask about the Eye of the Universe and all this shit and yada, yada, yada. And there's also just the incredible like visuals because you can see the Eye of the Universe above you. And the Nomai is like, this isn't really it. Like because we're on the quantum moon, this is just sort of a reflection of the Eye of the Universe. It's not really the eye itself. And so they're like, it would be cool if we could see it. Like our race was always wondering like what happens when somebody observes it directly because nobody has observed it directly before.
Yeah.
And so there's all these just like nutty lore drops about what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember, is this the spot where you get the coordinates for the Eye of the Universe?
I don't know. I can't remember.
I forget. Yeah.
It's been a while since I played the base game.
Yeah, I can't remember. I think it is. I think that there's like some discovery about like how to get there. But point being, like you get all this lore and then you're able to like go back, and at some point you'll have to piece together, I have the coordinates of the Eye of the Universe. I think the Nomai themselves say like we could get there if we had a working spaceship of ours. Like we could warp there. We have the technology to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But they're like, we don't have a warp drive. Like it doesn't exist anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have at some point warped to the center of the Ash Twin, you'll see like that's the place where the experiment is running to keep you on this loop. It's like inside the planet, which is just, it's such a cool visual.
Yeah.
But there is a warp core in there, which is what keeps this whole thing running.
Yep.
And so if you can piece that together with the fact that you probably have at some point found the vessel in Dark Bramble. My brain's like Helm's Deep every time. Like, that's not it, man. That's not it.
That's how intense it feels in there. Whenever you go in, it's really the Battle of Helm's Deep all over again.
And so if you can piece those things together, you're like, oh shit, I can get there. Like I know the coordinates and I can get that ship to get me there.
It's such a fun realization. Like I can get there. I can do this. It doesn't tell you. It's just like, here's all the pieces. Go and do it.
Yeah, because I'd gotten to the vessel before, and like obviously like it's so clear in the middle of the bridge that like there is a skeleton of one of the Nomai like trying to get the warp core, and it's broken. You can clearly see it's broken. It's like it's shattered and shit. There's also like this machine at the front of it that I was like, I don't know what this thing is supposed to do. Like it's like a bunch of like kind of weird ball puzzles, and I'm like, I definitely don't have the solution to this.
You look at it, you're like, I lack enough knowledge to do this right now.
Yeah.
Also, real quick, how terrifying was it to get to that vessel through Dark Bramble?
So frightening. This was one of the more unsettling parts of the game. And also, I would say, for me, one of the more frustrating because, like, we haven't said it yet, but there's these big anglerfish that live inside Helm's Deep. I'm just going to keep calling it that now.
Helm's Deep, it's canon.
They're gigantic. It's like Subnautica levels of frightening, of like big creatures. And
these
the
boys
way that
are
you
fast
navigate,
too.
They're quick. Yeah. And to navigate this place, you do have to go to these little lights out in the distance, but some of them are anglerfish and some of them are not.
Yeah. It's like you go in through this very spooky hole in the planet that's covered in thorns, and you just slowly float into pitch darkness. And then there's just a couple of lights in the distance, and that's it. That's all you see.
Yeah.
And you just have to choose which one is a real light and which one's a fish. And if you choose wrong, you're going to get eaten, and that's it.
Yeah, it's very cool the way the game does it, because there's another section on the Ash Twin where you see like this game that these kids played where it's like you have to be very quiet. Like somebody pretends to be the anglerfish. And if they hear you, then they're like, oh, I'm coming to get you now.
Yeah.
Which is very cool. There's also like a skeleton of an anglerfish in there. And so at some point you will intuit like, I can't use my boosters to get through this place. So I just have to rely on momentum to get me through a section.
Yeah,
and
you do
so
like one quick boost in the right direction, and then you just float, you glide. Yeah.
And so there is a specific section where you need to completely cut your engines essentially.
Yeah.
And you just float by like 5 to 10 anglerfish, and it's just so scary because they're right in front of you. Like you truly cannot move.
Yep.
Even just a little bit of boost, they'll come get you. But if you can pass through that, you will eventually get to the vessel, which is where the Nomai have crashed. Anyway, so you do that. You replace the warp core. Also, so scary to remove the like warp drive that they have in the center of the planet, because like you won't respawn.
Exactly. Yeah.
I felt so vulnerable taking the warp drive out and being like, oh my God, I can't fuck this up.
Yeah,
like I'm not going to be able to do it.
You best know that exactly what to do at that point, right? You got to have your plan going, and like the game knows as well. It starts playing like the coolest music. Such good music at this part of the game.
It's both incredible, and it also is using the same motif of the sun exploding. It plays that song that happens right before the sun explodes. And initially I was like, no, I have way more time than this. Like I am so not close. And I realized eventually like, oh, they're just hyping me up because I'm at the end of the game right now.
Yeah.
It's so incredible. So anyway, you get there, you replace the warp drive, you put in the coordinates, and you get to the center of the universe, the eye of the universe, and you just warp outside of it. And so you like exit the ship essentially and go in there. And like, you know, it's very 2001. It like, it kind of gets all trippy for a second. And it's really an experience, the end of this game. Like it's very like logicless and more just like experiential.
Yes.
And also incredible at the same time because like it depicts a lot without directly depicting it. I think it's like you go into this space and a lot of it's really dark at first, but eventually you kind of see that, oh, these are like trees from Timberhearth. Like I must be back on the planet or something. But it also shows you like what look like a bunch of galaxies and all of them like kind of flickering and exploding. And eventually they all like essentially flicker out. Like it's just totally dark.
Yeah.
And I forget the order, but essentially at some point, like you are wandering around in the darkness trying to figure out like what's going on and what to do. And what you discover is a lot of your companions from the space program. And like I think it's like one of them is standing around a campfire. They're like, hey, like, do you want to play? Like we should play music, but I'm not going to play until everybody's here. And so you have to like use your sonar scope to search around for like all these different signals that you had found before for like, where are my friends? Like, let me find them. And there's these kind of like weird, bizarre 4-dimensional puzzles that you have to do to figure out like where they are, eventually culminating in like all of them being around this campfire, including the Nomai that you met, who is playing their own instrument. This is also where if you brought the prisoner with you, that they're also here as well.
From Echoes of the Eye, the goat.
Right.
Owl man.
Who also like plays their own instrument. And you all just play music. And again, it's so cool because they're just playing the bits of song that they have been playing every time you encounter them. Like none of it, it's not a new song. They're just playing their portion of it.
Yeah.
And eventually, once they have all played their song together, there's this like huge explosion. And it's just like white hot light that happens in this part. And, you know, there have been all these references in the beginning of like the eye of the universe is somehow older than the universe. It like doesn't make sense or like how that could be, or like, you know, there's references to like how the universe started and the Big Bang and all that shit. And so I think the interpretation, or at least the one that I felt at the time, was like, oh, I'm making the universe anew, you know, like that the end of the universe has created this moment. And now that we are here playing the music, like we'll start a new one, or we'll start it over, or whatever it may be, which is just beautiful, incredible. Like I was blown away by this bit.
It was very unexpected. I would say did not expect this ending at all when I first played it.
No. And like, I didn't know necessarily that this was the thing that they were building to. But it really took me off guard in how amazing it was. Cause like, you know, I don't know that we've totally hit on it yet, but like the whole point of the game and a lot of like, or not the point of the game, but a lot of moments in the game are pointing towards these people who are afraid of the end and like afraid of the universe ending. A lot of the Nomai were like, how do we stop it? How do we like figure out what to do with this?
How do we continue to survive? Yeah.
Right. A lot of their like drive was like, we must continue our race and like continue living. And for the answer, at least in this one, to be relinquishing control and like jumping into the literal unknown, that's really effective for me. That there is like a little bit of surrender that I think actually like really rocks.
No, it is very much a game about letting go and letting the end happen and to stop fighting against something that is inevitable.
Yeah.
And I think it's very much a game that is dealing with how to deal with death at the very end.
Definitely. Yeah.
Right.
Which is so surprising. Like the game never directly talks about it.
I mean,
it just doesn't.
It's true. It's incredible because, I mean, you are fighting against that the whole game. Where you're just like, I need to get out of this loop where I'm consistently dying. I can't die. Right. And it's using like that innate human instinct to survive that the player is tapping into just without even thinking about it, and then flips it on its head at the end of like, you were doing what needed to be done to get to this point, but now that you've done it, it's time to let go and just let it happen. And that's how you win. That's how you beat this game.
That's the solution, is like just relinquishing and letting go and being like, okay.
The solution is stopping the cycle of rebirth and just letting the cosmic powers of this universe run their course, and for things to change for you and for everyone that you know.
Yeah, because like I think it's very much alluding to like there is life that comes out of decay, you know, like that an animal will die in the forest and like the decay of its corpse will feed the tree that lives underneath it, you know, like that kind of thing. Because like they never say it directly, but like presumably the person you're playing doesn't make it out of this, you know, like, it seems like they're kind of having this like 4 or 5 dimensional experience.
Yes.
That like isn't necessarily tied to like logic, but that the emotional drive of like, I need to find my friends and we need to play music is the thing that like explodes the universe again and makes it whole.
It's quite the jam.
Again, that's really good.
That's a jam session, right? If I've ever had one before.
Yeah, for real. You ever played the bongo so good that you made a new universe?
From the cosmic matter of your own destroyed universe.
Yeah. And so presumably like they don't get out of here, but it's like in accepting the fact that like, okay, I'm passing the baton now. Now it's, you know, the rest of everybody else's chance to try again. Again,
which is not even everybody else's chance, but just a chance for something completely new to take root. There's no one else. It's just, let's see what happens this time.
Yeah. Try it again. Yeah, exactly. You see that kind of baton pass happen a lot in the game, right? Like between the Nomai and your character and all the discoveries of these people and like your colleagues and the goat people over and over again. That again, it adds up to an incredibly hopeful tone at the end. It's really remarkable. I was like very surprised at how good the end of this one was.
A very bittersweet ending.
Yeah. Yeah. In a way that like, I would say it's more sweet than bitter. Just bitter in the sense that like, it's, you know, it's over. Yeah. But also at the same time, like you have allowed the universe to try again.
It's a tough reality to face. What you've been working towards hasn't come to fruition, but something else has happened.
Yes.
That is the correct answer for everything going on.
Exactly. Really good. Really good video game.
Yep.
We got a couple questions. Are you up for answering a couple listener questions?
Yeah, let's do it. And was there a different ending if you beat Echoes of the Eye?
Essentially just that you can take the prisoner with you to that jam session.
That's it. Everything else is the same.
That was the one that I saw. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe there's another bad ending. There are a couple bad endings. Like if you die after taking out the warp drive, it's like it gives you the quote unquote you died screen. You can just reload a save, to be clear. Like I did that a couple times.
They don't mess with you that bad.
No, but presumably it's like you didn't succeed there. Okay, so listener questions. Hey, thanks for people for sending these in.
Yeah.
Weavil Laurel asked us, if you were to be stranded with one of the travelers, who would you pick? Among the travelers, presuming this is just the Hearthians.
Yes.
We've got Hornfels, one of the founding members. He's the ground control for the Outer Wilds ventures. He's like he's also the curator for the museum. So you talk to him kind of early. There's Gosan. He's on Timberhearth. He's another astronaut. There is Slate. He is a person that you talk to like right in the beginning, right next to the campfire. Feldspar, who's the dude in Dark Bramble, who's like the ace pilot or whatever.
Yeah.
There is Esker, who is on the moon of Timberhearth. There is Rybeck, who is the banjo man. He's on Brittle Hollow. Of course, Chert, who is on Ember Twin, playing the bongos. Gabbro, who is on Giant's Deep. He's the one that like is hanging out in the like hammock. And then you, of course, the protagonist.
If I had to hang out with any of them, I might either do Gadsbro, because he's just a chiller. Total chiller. Yeah. He's in a hammock. I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly. He's just hanging out.
Yeah.
Yep. Or
they play the flute. Or
Slate. They seem like they have a good sense of humor.
Yeah.
Right? They're kind of self-deprecating. They're like a little sarcastic and fun to be around. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they are funny, which is really good. It's Chert for me, man. Chert all the way down.
Chert only.
Chert's real funny. I like Chert. They seem to be very protective of their own gear. Like you find all these like references of Chert having left around the universe. And it's always like, this is Chert's property of Chert, which is very funny.
You want to hang out with that person though.
I just think Chert's fine. If I scare Chert enough, they will stop talking to me.
So if you send Chert into existential dread, that's your way of making sure that hanging out with Chert's good.
Listen, I got so much existential dread floating around all the time that like I could unleash
Welcome
this
to
at
my
any point.
world, Chert.
Yeah. But I do like the drums. That's cool. Thank you, Chert.
Okay, cool.
What else? Mack asked, did y'all get the motion sickies? My partner did, which was disappointing because they like it. They also said, Dark Bramble is awful and I get jump scared every time I go there. It's very spooky. We sort of answered this already, but not really, mercifully.
No, thankfully. And
got pretty
Dark Bramble
lucky.
is spooky.
It is very spooky. I absolutely agree. It's realizing that I had to go back there. I was like, oh my God, I can't do it again.
Not again. We can't go back to Helm's Deep.
Let's see. Matt from Can't Let It Go asked, how Matt is this game that I'll never get to play because of motion sickness? Yesterday, I looked at your show art for it and got a headache from the memory of the migraine it gave me.
Man.
Yep, it's rough. How Matt is this game? I would say fairly Matt. Matt likes these thinky games. Matt liked 1,000 Times Resist, and so like I feel like this is not that far away from that sort of game. It's a very feeling game. It's also a thinking game, and so. Listen, I would love to tell you, Matt, that like you're not missing out on anything. And I could lie to you and say like it sucks shit. This game is terrible. Don't worry about it. You don't need to play it. But it is really good. So hopefully, at least in walking through this, you've been able to experience a little bit of the joy of it. Because
you can't even like experience a let's play of it, right? You just have to. It's hard, it's just an auditory history of it.
Yeah, and I will say even watching a let's play, I feel like would be not as satisfying of an experience because you're watching someone else discover what they want or what they're interested in.
Sure.
And like watch them uncover the secrets. And so it kind of takes the wind out of what's cool about it. Mm-hmm. But I don't know, maybe watch the ending. I don't think the ending's that disorienting. So maybe you can get that one.
Yeah.
Let's see. AJ from .zip and everything said, can you like tell me about the story? I want to feel things about it. I couldn't play past the foggy anglerfish planet because it genuinely set me into physical panic every time.
Wow. Sounds about right.
We did that, but then AJ also followed up with, wait, you know what? Give me your big takeaway, which is a concept from .zip, wherein we just talk about like, what is the thing that you will be left with once you finish playing this game? What are you going to be thinking about after you're done with it? Let me see. I think for me, there's a couple things. If I wanted to point to a moment, like the ending is pretty clear in being the thesis of the game.
Yeah.
You know, like it's almost like it has been building all this evidence for that moment without you realizing it.
Yeah.
And then at the end sort of like pulls the rug out and is like, here's what you've been doing and here is the answer as well. So like there's an elegance to how they do that. But I also think that like there's a sensation that I got from playing the game. And I think it was, like there is a perseverance that it requires that I don't feel all the time. And this like weird cocktail that you're left with at the end of like feeling like I can do anything, but also like taking my hands off the wheel a little bit with my need to control like my mortal coil.
Sure.
That those two things swirling around is like a very infectious sensation that it's hard to point to a single moment other than maybe the end, but like it's hard to point to a single moment and say like this is the thing that communicated that, and more I want to point to that sensation of being like I'm a discoverer and explorer, and also like I'm at peace with this cycle, right? Of like I am on one of these journeys and I will not be able to solve the death problem, you know, that quote unquote the death problem, but that the solution, the avenue with which to do it is to observe it and to experience it, which is, I think that combined with the fact that like they don't communicate that to you directly is outrageous. I can't believe that is something that like the people in this game talk, but they don't talk about that, you know, like you maybe through the Know My character, but like, holy moly, that is unbelievable.
Yeah.
What about you? Do you have a big takeaway for this game?
My big takeaway is that this game is made explicitly for the people who lament that they were born too late to explore the seas and too early to explore the universe. It is just such a pure sense of adventure. It lets you feel curious. It lets you feel brave. It lets you feel resilient. It lets you feel like you are discovering things for the first time that no one else has discovered. And it does it in such an organic and fun and interesting way that it gives you all of the fun parts of being an adventurer without any of the actual physical danger, but then also finds a way to reconcile the very real aspect of adventuring which is death, right?
Right.
In that it lets you experience it over and over and over again, and then have some sort of hopefully catharsis at the end with it, right? Through the ending. But to me, it's really the mechanical experience of being this little creature exploring a vast unknown universe that sticks with me. That's the thing that I remember, is just spinning around on my spaceship, finding things, unraveling this mystery, and being an interesting combination of like a space Indiana Jones and a scientist at the same time, just kind of exploring and intuiting and engaging with this world that's been crafted for you to just, experience.
Yeah, I mean, what are we except weird little creatures in space trying to figure out this mystery?
Exactly.
That's it. We are also doing that.
That's the central tenet of the game, right? Tenet, but like a pillar of the game is it is just tapping into something so innately human, which is explore and survive.
Yeah. And I think that it is really good at pointing out that like there is joy in there, that there is surprise and humor and like delight in a way that like if you're willing to look for it, it is there. And I think it's smart that the answer. Yes, yeah. And I think it's smart that its answer a lot of the time is that like people are your answer a lot of the time, that like the people who you care about and the people who you want to be around and like make music with, whether or not directly or metaphorically. Play my bongo. Play my bongo with
making
my friends.
some sweet music together.
Yeah, good takeaway. Wow, it's like you're on .zip right now. Fun.
Look at me go. I'm zipping it up.
And then we got a couple of we've never discussed on .zip whether it is up or down.
Yeah, do you like zip it down at the beginning of the episode and at the end you zip it up, keep it tight?
I'm going to need to discuss this with the other members of the podcast.
I'm not trying to shake the boat here. I'm not part of the podcast. I'm just asking questions, okay?
It's a good question.
Just a question.
We'll need to get you on there so you can answer this directly and throw AJ and Kim into an existential crisis.
We're not talking about games today. Are we zipped up or are we zipped down? Are we in the middle of it right now? Who knows?
What's the answer? What is this mystery? What is life?
Jam it out with your buds. That's the answer.
Got a couple other questions here that seemingly don't relate at all to the Outer Wilds. First one is, have you been acquiring any dad gear? Answer is yes, quite a bit. We've got a lot of stuff. We've somehow come upon like 4 strollers, which I'm confused about.
4? People are just giving you strollers?
I think that's part of the problem, is that a lot of people are like, ooh, take my hand-me-down, and doesn't want to say no.
Sure.
And so we've got a couple that I'm like, are we going to use this? Because like we got the new one. That looks pretty sick.
Those things are expensive. You can always just sell that baby on Craigslist and get some diaper money, man.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope that's possible, because I don't think we need 4. I think we need 2.
You need 2?
I think so. Like one of them is
if one gets a flat tire. One ready to go.
One of them is like a stroller car seat combo.
Oh, sure.
That's got like both built in. And so one of them just is a car seat, but the other one is more just a stroller. And so like we have both of those depending on the need.
One stroller and you're walking about stroller.
Right. Yeah. One of them you can tilt the angle of it pretty good. So it's like if you need it to be a bassinet, you kind of can, rather than like an upright stroller. The necks of these little guys, they're not strong and they need to be able to be in the right position for a while. I know it's probably chill and my instincts will take over, but I'm like, I don't want to drop this little creature.
This is where you're going to find the dad strength.
Yeah.
This is the beginning.
The other question, that last one was from Dirst, by the way. This next question is from Tozac, who asked, can we get a rep recap or something of the sort? I'm curious about the squat routine. High bar, low bar, narrow, wide stance. Thoughts on Bulgarian split squats? What else are you focusing on in the gym?
Wow.
I think this is a reference to the fact that I talked about I've been going to the gym a fair bit in the pregnancy times. My hips are so immobile and I don't have a lot of mobility in them. So I pretty much have to do wide stance because narrow is really tough for me to get down low enough into the squat. I know that's probably not like the perfect lifting advice, but like truly like my hips just won't rotate in the way that I need them to do a narrow stance squat. So that's just not a thing I can do. So I gotta go wide.
Sure.
Bulgarian split squats, very effective, really, really good leg workout. Really, really hurt, which I think is probably the point.
Hurt in a good way?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Not in a, I'm injuring myself, but like, oh my God, this is so challenging. I love a leg press, man. I love just a good old fashioned leg press because like I weigh like 220 pounds. And so just like a body squat already has some weight on it. And so when I do the leg press, it looks really impressive and it feels like, oh my God, I got like 4 or 5 plates on these things. Like this is crazy.
I'm the coolest guy in this gym.
Right. Whereas when I do
fields all day.
Whereas I'm doing regular squats, I've just got like 45s on either side, which like isn't like, it's nothing to shake a stick at, but it doesn't look like, oh my God, that guy's lifting, you know? And not that I'm doing it for the vanity, but it does feel cool to be like, look at all this weight, man.
Nice.
So that one's been really effective. And I typically, just because like, I don't know how many days I'm going to be able to get to the gym, I'll just do an upper body, lower body split, and then just do cardio when I can. I used to do like mostly just like lifting. I almost entirely just lifted for a while, and my cholesterol was quite high and my blood pressure was getting high. And so they're like, could you run just like a little? I'm like, no, but I will do the elliptical. I'm chill with that. So I sit on the elliptical for half an hour and play Marvel Snap. And that's my gym routine.
Gotcha.
I had to start giving myself permission to have a shitty workout. That's the thing that unlocked it for me.
Yep. Sometimes you're not going to hit your PR that day.
No. And like, there was just so long where I'm like, well, I don't have an hour and a half to go lift or whatever. And I'm not going to be able to do my like, you know, push pull sort of upper and lower days. And so it's not even worth going because I'm going to have a shitty workout, or like I can only get on the elliptical for like 15 minutes or something. And so I just wouldn't do it. And then like, once I was like, you know what, just go totally blow it up. If it sucks, just go home. Like, because there's been once where I got there and was like, I feel like shit, I'm going home. Like out of the now, you know, almost probably 100 times I've been to the gym in the last like couple of months. It just doesn't happen because I'm there. I'm like, I might as well, you know, like I'm here.
Let's just do it.
So definitely like the harder part of getting there is when I'm comfy at home and I don't have my gym clothes on yet. And I'm like, I don't want to do it. That's the hardest part.
Yep. What helped me sometimes, go to sleep in your gym clothes if you're trying to do it in the morning.
Interesting. Oh, see, here's the problem. I cannot work out in the morning. I'm just like, I'm so ineffective. I'm a big lunchtime or 4 o'clocker.
Lunch?
That's my preferred time to lift is lunchtime.
You work from home.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm like, are you a sociopath? What is wrong with you? Who has to go to the gym, work out, then get ready for work again? No, but working from home makes sense.
I work from home. I work on a computer. Nobody cares other than my dog if I smell bad. So like, no big.
Dogs probably stoked if you smell bad.
Yeah, they're like, yo, more of this guy. Also, like, I'm showering every day. I'm an everydayer, so like, it's the stink don't stay for that long.
Yeah, there you go.
So that's my rep recap. Thank you, Tozac, for indulging me. I think that's it. I think those are all the questions we got.
I have one question for you, Chase.
Yes, David.
With the imminent birth of your child, have you decided how or when you are going to introduce them to the podcast?
See, this is a tough one. I've thought about when to introduce them to gaming, but podcast, I don't know. Because like... too early and they'll be like, everybody has a podcast, you know, like this is just a thing that dads do. We do a cuss on this thing, and like
we do a naughty joke now and then.
It's a little blue sometimes. And I will also say that like it only gets more blue as time goes back. Those early days were just nothing but like butt jokes. And so
we were really trying to find ourselves back then.
Yeah, I had to find our voice. So I don't know. I think I'm just not going to say anything until they bring it up.
Once they see your bumper sticker.
Yeah, true. Or it'll just be like, here's dad's time to go and chat with his friend every night or whatever, every Monday or whatever it ends up being. I have no idea what the schedule is going to be.
Yeah. Whenever we can make it work.
Yeah, sure. So we'll see. I don't know. Listen, like I take pride in the thing that we do, and I'm proud of what we have built and the episodes we make week to week. But it's like saying you're like really into math or really into debate. Like I'm a podcaster, you know, like it's not a thing that's like so cool to talk about. Unless you're one of the few cool podcasters, which it's hard to come by.
Who are the cool podcasters? Ira Glass?
I'd say if you're Ira Glass, you can rep it pretty hard that you're a podcaster. Also, he was doing it when it was just straight up radio. So like that's, you know,
short form internet cool radio.
Yeah. Maybe Eye of the Duck. I feel like they have some cultural cachet because they're like a film podcast, you know, like this is like we're analyzing movies and their worth and stuff like that. And like, yes, film and video games are both an art form, but just like, you know, man, you know how gamers are, you know, you know how we look.
Yeah. Yeah, my girlfriend's niece asked me the other day, I'm like, you're like kind of a gamer, aren't you? And I'm just like, oh.
Oh, man. She found out. She knows.
No, I don't like that term. Can we use something else?
You're like, listen, I'm trying to reclaim the title, but no and yes at the same time.
I'm trying to bring it back, but like not the kind that you would associate it with. Yeah.
Yes. No. Oh man. There will be at some point when hopefully, I guess my daughter's going to clock me as a gamer. We'll see. Mm-hmm. It's going to be intense. I hope that I've left a good enough impression. Again, my dream is like, man, if we could just like lay down and play Minecraft together, like that's the shit.
And then watch the Minecraft movie.
It's a fucking chicken jockey, David.
It's out there.
Chicken jockey reference at the end of this 2.5 hour episode.
The jump scare at the end.
Chicken jockey. Thank you for listening to this podcast. I'll keep it brief because both of us are probably tired at this point. Thank you for listening. We appreciate you. Thank you for suggesting this episode. Pokechon, very fun to indulge ourselves with just a very good video game. Mm-hmm. And yeah, the big takeaway is relinquish control. No, the big the gaming wisdom is relinquish control. Yeah. My podcasts are blurring together.
The streams got crossed.
Yeah, I didn't observe I observed both of them at the same time, and they both took a quantum position at the same place in my brain.
There you go.
Any last words, Dave? Sun explodes.
Any last words? Hug the people you love.
Yeah.
Appreciate them now, because you never know when it's all going to end.
Very ominous tone at the end here. Because you never know. It sounds like you're going to come kick my ass now. You never know when David's going to show up.
No one ever expects the David Inquisition.
No, and he explodes the sun when he shows up.
That's the way it happens canonically.
All right, we'll see you next week.
See ya.
Bye, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
TWG, the worst garbage, online.